Today we're making an ultimate carnivore lasagna that's rich, hearty, and deeply satisfying. It brings all the comfort of a classic lasagna using only animal-based ingredients. It's perfect for family meals or anytime you want real comfort food while staying carnivore. So come step into the kitchen with me and let's get started. For the noodles, we'll be using 4 large eggs, 1 cup of pork rind powder, shredded mozzarella cheese with 1 cup for the noodles and 1 cup for layering, and 1 cup of cottage cheese. For the meat sauce, we'll be using 1 pound of ground beef and half a cup of cream cheese. For the layering, we'll use 1 cup ricotta cheese. We'll salt to taste. Use half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and optional toppings can be bacon or ham pieces. First, we'll preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, using a food processor or blender, we'll add the eggs, cottage cheese, shredded mozzarella, and pork rind powder, and then blend everything until smooth. Choosing hormone and antibiotic-free dairy helps reduce unnecessary exposure to substances that can interfere with the body's natural hormone balance. It also supports gut health by avoiding antibiotic residues that may disrupt the microbiome. When dairy comes from well-raised animals, it's often more nutrient-dense and easier for many people to digest. These practices also support animal welfare and more sustainable farming methods. And many people notice fewer inflammatory reactions when they switch to cleaner dairy sources. Small choices like this can make meaningful differences when dairy is used regularly. If pork rind powder isn't available in your area, you can easily use regular pork rinds instead, which are often easier to find. Just crush them into a fine texture before adding them to this recipe. A food processor or blender works well for this, but you can also just place them in a bag and crush them by hand. Now that the mixture is ready, we'll spread that out over a platinum silicone baking mat like the one I have here, or a parchment-covered baking sheet. Be sure to spread the mixture thinly over the surface so that it bakes evenly. Then it goes into the oven for 20 to 30 minutes, just until it's set and lightly golden. While the carnivore noodles are baking, we'll heat a skillet over medium heat and cook the ground beef until it's fully browned. If there's extra fat, you can drain that off if you prefer. Then we'll season it simply with sea salt and stir in the cream cheese until everything becomes rich and creamy. If you want a softer texture, you can also add a splash of water or heavy cream. And once it's smooth and well combined, we'll remove it from the heat. And here's the noodle sheet, fully cooked and ready to be cut. We'll start by measuring the size against the loaf pan so everything fits nicely. For the glass loaf pan that I'm using, I'll cut the sheet into thirds. I'm using a nylon knife here since it's safe to use on silicone surfaces. Now it's time to start layering everything together. I'll start by greasing the pan with an animal fat, and for this recipe I'm using bacon grease from my bacon grease container. This helps prevent sticking and adds an extra layer of flavor. You can use whatever animal fat you have on hand. And here we have all the ingredients, ready to start assembling the lasagna. Begin with a noodle sheet in the greased baking dish. This first layer creates the foundation and helps everything stay structured as we build upwards. From here, each layer will come together nicely and naturally. We'll then add a layer of ricotta and spread it evenly over the base noodle. This creates a smooth, creamy layer that helps bind the lasagna and keep each slice moist and cohesive. We'll then follow that with the meat sauce and some shredded mozzarella. This layer adds richness and depth to the lasagna. As it bakes, the cheese melts into the sauce, creating that classic, comforting texture. We'll keep repeating those layers until everything is used up. As you layer, try to spread each component evenly so every slice has a good balance of flavors. Taking a moment to smooth each layer helps the lasagna hold together beautifully once it's baked. Finally, we'll finish with a generous layer of cheese on top. For extra flavor and a nice golden finish, I like to sprinkle a little Parmesan over the top. As it bakes, this layer will melt and brown beautifully, creating that classic lasagna look. It also helps seal everything underneath so that the layers stay soft and well set. And if you'd like, you can also add some bacon or ham pieces for an extra layer of texture and richness. We'll place the lasagna into the oven and bake it at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 30 minutes, just until the cheese is melted and bubbling on top. Once it's out of the oven, let it rest for about 10 minutes so that the layers can set before slicing. This short rest helps everything hold together when you cut into it. And you can see how nicely golden and bubbly the top turned out. As I cut into the lasagna, this is always the moment I look forward to. You can tell right away how hearty and well set it is as the knife goes through. It's exactly the texture we were aiming for. Once it's on the plate, you can really see the layers come through. The noodle sheets, the meat sauce, and the cheese stacked together just the way we want. And here it is up close with that beautiful golden top and hearty layers all the way through. This is real comfort food, filling, satisfying, and meant to be enjoyed slowly. And that's the finished carnivore lasagna. Hearty, nourishing, and deeply satisfying. Thank you so much for cooking along with me. If this is a recipe that you'd try at home, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.